Welcome to Omega Bonda Stories. Let's begin.
My handler appeared with two alphas behind him. His smile was too wide. There he is, the runaway Omega. I forced my voice steady. I came back. Now stop. He stepped closer. He did not touch me yet. You do not negotiate. You belong to whoever pays. My stomach turned, but I did not fold. I lifted my phone and held it up. I did what you demanded. But I also sent proof to the Port Authority. I sent it to the inspectors. I sent it to anyone who will not take your money. His smile twitched. Fear found him and he tried to crush it with anger. You are lying. Before he could move, the sprinklers overhead burst to life. Water hammered down and steam rose from warm metal. The alarm tone changed. A recorded voice filled the corridor. Evacuate. Doors farther down slammed open. Officials in bright vests, port security with cameras raised, fire crews with masks, the kind of power that does not need to strike to make you move. My handler backed up. His eyes darted for an exit that still belonged to him. Then the Enigma stepped into view at my side. He did not rush. He did not posture. He simply appeared like he had always been meant to stand there. Wet hood, dark clothes, no scent, only presence. Every alpha in the corridor went still. The Enigma lifted his gaze to the cameras and then to the officials. He nodded once. Then he looked at me. For the first time, his throat moved like he was pushing sound through a door he had kept locked for years. When his voice came, it was low and rough and careful, like he was afraid a single word could break me. Choose. That was all. Not mine. Not stay. Not obey. Only choose. My eyes burned. My chest hurts. All my life choices had been taken from me and renamed duty. I stepped closer to him until our shoulders almost touched. I placed my hand against his sleeve where his arm was solid under wet fabric. I did not cling. I did not submit. I simply stayed. His gaze steadied like the storm had finally found its center. Behind us, the corridor filled with voices and paperwork and cameras. My handler was pulled aside. The auction was no longer private. It was evidence. The port did not burn for their profit anymore. It burned away their cover. He guided me out through a side door while the officials took over. Outside, the rain had stopped. Smoke thinned above the water. He did not touch me once we were out. He only walked beside me and kept his body angled so anyone watching would see him first. The streetlights caught rain on his lashes. I wondered how someone so feared could move with such quiet care. I looked down at my wrist where his thumb had steadied my pulse earlier. My skin is still remembered, not like ownership, like belonging that asked permission. I realized my hands had stopped shaking. I did not know what we were. I did not know what the pull in my instincts was asking of me. I only knew that in the darkest place I had been seen and I had been offered a choice. That's how my world changed and how I found home in the last place I expected. If the story made you feel something deep and real, then I create these emotional worlds every single week for hearts like yours that crave connection that goes beyond words. Subscribe so you never miss the moment when two broken souls find each other in the darkness. Your support means everything, and it lets me keep bringing you stories that understand what you're searching for. Hit that subscribe button and let's feel everything together because you deserve stories that see you. They told me to keep my chin up because an Omega with lowered eyes looks guilty. They dressed me in pale fabric that made my skin too bright under the auction lights. They braided my hair back so no one could read fear in my hands. They called it preparation. I knew it was packaging. The room smelled like salt and oil and money. The port was only a few streets away. I could hear distant horns through the high windows. I used to love that sound because it meant ships were coming home. Tonight it sounded like a warning. I was supposed to be a quiet clerk in a records office. Then my family name became a debt. Then my signature became leveraged. Someone decided my body would make better currency than my work. They did not say it was an auction for me. They called it a private tender. They said powerful investors would bid on a contract. They said the contract included a personal attendant for the new holder. They said it like they were talking about furniture. Every gaze in the room understood what I was. I kept repeating one word in my head to stay sane. Bait. They wanted a rival to show his face. An enigma. A man with no pack mark and no public history. A rumor that walked like an alpha and moved like a storm. Dock workers spoke of him like the dark could hear. A handler guided me through a side corridor behind the stage. The air was colder there. My skin prickled under it. I could smell too many alphas layered over each other. Expensive cologne over heat that never truly cooled. Each scent pushed at my instincts like a hand on my throat. My Omega body wanted to fold inward and vanish. I pressed my fingers to my own wrist where my pulse jumped. I had no bond mark, no safe claim. No one would notice if I disappeared. I hated that thought because it made me feel small. I hated myself for needing someone at all. The auctioneer was already speaking. His voice was smooth as polished wood. I heard laughter. It did not sound happy. It sounded hungry. When the curtain shifted, I saw the crowd. Black suits, silver watches, faces tilted upward like they were watching art. Some were bored. Some were amused. Some looked away with practiced indifference. They were all complicit in different ways. That was the part that made me sick. It was not one villain. It was a room full of people deciding that my fear was acceptable. Then the air changed like a door opening in a storm. It was not a scent. Not exactly. It was a pressure. A calm weight that settled over the room and made every other alpha presence fade into background noise. My instincts flared so sharply I almost stumbled. My throat went tight. My vision sharpened until the light stung. I did not want to look. I looked anyway. Near the back stood a man in plain dark clothes. No jewelry. No smile. He was not trying to be noticed. That should have made him invisible. Somehow it made him the only real thing in the room. The space around him felt clean, controlled, like he had claimed it without moving. His gaze lifted and met mine. I had expected the heat of an alpha stare. I had expected possession. What I saw instead was stillness. His eyes did not strip me. They measured the room. They measured the distance. They measured the exits. Then they held on to me like a promise that did not need words. My handler whispered that I should smile. I could barely hear him over my pulse. The spotlight hit me and the room leaned forward. I forced my shoulders back. I reminded myself I was bait and bait is not supposed to cry. The first bid came fast. Then another. Numbers rose. Applause followed like this was entertainment. My skin went cold. I kept my eyes on the man at the back because I needed something steady. He did not move. He did not react when the price climbed. For a moment I felt foolish for hoping. Omegas who hope get broken. Then he raised 2 fingers in a motion that barely existed. The auctioneer stopped mid-sentence. The room went quiet. Every head turned like a flock sensing a predator. The man did not look at anyone else. He only looked at me. His expression stayed level. Yet I felt his decision like a hand placed gently at my spine. The auctioneer cleared his throat and announced a new bid that swallowed every other offer whole. My handler went stiff beside me. His fingers dug into my arm. The trap had worked. I just did not know if the Enigma had come to buy the bait or to burn the whole world down to get it. They pulled me off the stage the second the gavel fell. My handler smiled for the crowd and hissed curses for me. His grip on my arm tightened as if pain could remind me who owned my breathing. The curtain swallowed the lights and the noise. Backstage, the air tasted of dust and panic. They did not take me to a car. They took me through a service stairwell and out into a covered loading lane. Rain had started. The ground shone under harsh lamps. The port smell was stronger here. Brine and diesel and wet rope. For a second I imagined running. Then I saw the men waiting. There were 4 of them. Not guards in uniform. Just bodies with heavy shoulders and blank faces. Alphas. Their scents were muted like someone had taught them to hold their instincts on a leash. They watched me with detached patience. No curiosity. Only a task. My handler spoke to them in low, hurried words. I caught pieces. Transfer. Secure. Delivery. He kept glancing back toward the building as if he expected the walls to crack. When they guided me forward, I did not fight. I knew what fighting earns an Omega in places like this. I kept my spine straight and my steps even. I told myself to be a stone in a river. Let the current pass. Survive. They moved me into a cargo office near the water. It was a box of gray walls and fluorescent light. A single chair. A metal desk with no papers. One small window facing stacked containers. Rain ran down the glass like restless fingers. They locked the door. They left two men outside. I could hear them shifting weight. I sat because standing felt like wasting energy. My Omega instincts kept reaching for the presence I had felt in the auction hall. That calm weight. That impossible quiet. It was gone now and the room felt raw without it. I hated that my body noticed. I hated that it felt safer when he was near. Time blurred. I focused on small things. The hum of the light. The drip of rain. The faint vibration of cranes working somewhere out of sight. Then the building shivered. At first I thought it was thunder. Then the floor trembled again and the desk vibrated under my fingers. Outside the window, a container stack light blinked and went out. Another followed. The port did not go dark completely. It changed, like someone had turned a giant dial from normal into an emergency. Voices rose in the hallway. Radios barked. Boots moved fast. The two men outside my door spoke in clipped phrases. I could not hear the words. I could hear fear behind them. My breath caught. The trap was happening now. They had wanted the Enigma to come. They had wanted him angry and visible. They had wanted to trade me for whatever power they thought they could steal. I should have hated him for stepping into the role they wrote for him. I should have hated myself for being the thing that brought him here. Instead, I felt a thin thread of relief that scared me more than any threat. Relief meant hope. Hope meant I could be hurt in a new way. A long, low horn rolled over the water and into my bones. Alarms answered from far away. Then even that noise thinned until the air felt strangely blank. The handle rattled once, then stopped. Silence fell so hard it felt physical. Even the radios went quiet. The hallway sounded empty. My instincts lifted their head like an animal catching a familiar wind. That pressure returned. Calm, heavy, controlled. Not inside the room yet. Close enough that the air itself seemed to hold its breath. I stood. My knees were unsteady. I pressed my palm to the door as if metal could tell me the truth. A soft knock came from the other side. Not a demand. Not a threat. A knock like someone asking permission. I did not answer because my voice had left me. The lock clicked. The door opened a few inches and stopped. A shadow filled the gap. No scent rushed in. Only that quiet presence. I saw a hand first. Long fingers. Clean. No rings. Then I saw his face in the narrow opening. The same man from the auction hall. The same eyes that had held on me like a promise. He did not step inside. He looked at me as if he was checking whether I was still here in my own body. Behind him the hallway was empty. My throat worked around the air. I managed one word. Why? He did not answer. He only reached for the lock from my side and turned it back into place. Then he stepped into the room and shut the door behind him. The moment he shut the door, the world outside went quiet. Not calm. Quiet like a predator holding still. He stood between me and the only exit. Any other alpha would have felt like a wall closing in. This felt like a shield I did not understand. He lifted a hand with his palm open. Stay. Breathe. His eyes stayed on mine as if he was anchoring me to my own body. He reached into his coat and tapped a small device. The fluorescent light flickered and died. Darkness filled the room. A thin red emergency strip above the door glowed and painted his face in shadow. Outside the window, the port lights failed in blocks. Sirens started again. Not frantic. Measured. Like someone had taken control of the alarms and was using them as a map. He held out a folded hooded jacket. I stared at it as if it were a trap. If I put it on, I would accept help. If I accepted help, I was admitting I could not save myself. My pride tasted like blood. He did not push. He set the jacket on the chair and stepped back. That restraint unsettled me more than force ever could. A heavy door slammed somewhere close. Footsteps ran past. Voices rose and fell. I could not catch the words. I could catch the fear. He moved fast then. Still quiet. He opened the desk drawer and pulled out keys that did not belong there. He unlocked a panel near the floor and revealed a service hatch wide enough for a body and nothing else. The dark space beyond looked like a throat. He looked at me and waited for my choice. My body chose before my mind did. I pulled the jacket on. It smelled like rain and clean fabric and nothing else. No possessive alpha claim. Just neutral, like he had planned for my comfort. I dropped to my knees and slid into the hatch. Metal scraped my palms. Cold air pressed against my face. Behind me he followed without touching. Even in the narrow space he kept distance. That careful control wrapped around my fear and softened it. We crawled through a damp service run under the office. Pipes dripped. Above us doors slammed and boots pounded. The port was waking up angry. My stomach twisted as I imagined the men who had guarded me searching for me. They would blame me for being taken, like a candle blames the wind. The tunnel shook once, then again. Not an explosion. A heavy vibration like machinery shifting position. He tapped my shoulder twice. Keep going. We emerged into a maintenance shed near the waterline. He pushed the door open and rain hit my face. Smoke mixed with it. The port was burning. Not in chaos. In sections. Controlled lines of flame climbing along stacks that had already been cleared. Sprinklers hissed in the next lane. Floodlights swung through the haze. People ran away from danger. Nobody was trapped. That mattered to me more than I expected. He pulled my hood up with a gentle tug. His fingers brushed my cheek by accident and my skin lit up like it had been waiting. I hated that reaction. Felt like betrayal. He guided me along a narrow walkway beside a warehouse wall. Every time a security light swept our way, he placed himself between it and me. Calm. Certain. Like protecting me was not a choice. Like it was gravity. At the end of the lane, a gate stood open. Beyond it, the city lights glittered through rain. Freedom was right there, and my lungs still did not believe it. A shout cut through the sirens behind us. Not close. Close enough. I froze. He stopped too. He listened for a heartbeat, then reached for my wrist. Not to pull. To hold. His thumb rested over my pulse as if he could steady it by touch alone. The pressure was warm and careful. My instincts surged. Not toward submission. Toward recognition. Like some hidden part of me knew his silence. He looked at me in the rain and smoke. In his eyes, I saw no ownership. I saw a decision. I saw restraint. I saw a promise that he would burn every road before he let them drag me back. I didn't know it then, and my heart wasn't ready to accept what my instincts were screaming, but something had already shifted between us, and there was no going back. If you're feeling what I felt in that moment, then you understand why I need you to stay with me through this journey. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens when he finally breaks his silence, because I promise you it will shatter everything you thought you knew about us. He led me through the open gate and into back streets where rain softened every sound. The city felt unreal after the port. I kept waiting for hands to grab me from an alley. My body stayed braced for impact that never came. He did not drag me. He stayed half a step ahead and watched every corner. When I slowed, he slowed. That small patience scraped at something inside me. I was used to being moved like cargo, not guided like a person. We reached a narrow building with a locked door and no sign. He opened it with a key and took me up 3 flights. Then he stepped aside so I entered first. Even that mattered. It told my instincts I was not walking into a new cage. The apartment was spare. A couch, a table, kettle, 2 cups. No photos. No softness that belonged to anyone. Only clean surfaces and a window facing river lights. He set a first aid kit on the table and pointed to the couch. Sit. When I did, he offered a bottle of water. His gaze stayed on my face like he was checking whether I would bolt. My hands shook as I drank. The water tasted like nothing, and it still felt like mercy. He dampened a cloth and held it out. He did not reach for me. He waited. Accepting care has always felt dangerous to me, like the first step toward being owned. Yet his silence had never felt like hunger. Felt like discipline. Like walls built inside him that kept me safe behind them. I placed my hands in his. His grip was steady and light. He cleaned the scrapes with slow, precise motions. Every time I flinched, he paused. Then he continued only when I breathed again. It was gentleness with authority in it, the kind that does not need to prove itself. My instincts kept circling him, confused, drawn, angry. Under it all there was a pull like a tide I could not fight. It did not feel like instant attraction. It felt like recognition of a truth I had not agreed to yet. I needed answers more than comfort. "Who are you?" I asked. He did not speak. He pulled out a small notebook and pen. He wrote and turned the page toward me. "Not safe to say it here." My stomach dropped. The apartment suddenly felt less solid, as if the walls could hear. "Why me?" I asked. He wrote again. "Because they chose you as bait. Because you deserve to live anyway." Deserve. No one had used that word about me in years. "What do you want from me?" I was forced out. His pen hovered. For the first time, something like conflict crossed his face. Not anger. "Wait," he wrote slowly. "Nothing you do not choose." My chest tightened. My body wanted to lean toward that promise. My mind yanked it back. I did not trust my instincts. They had betrayed me before by wanting comfort in the wrong places. A distant siren echoed outside and my pulse jumped. He turned toward the window, then back to me. He wrote one more line. "They will come." As if summoned, my phone vibrated in my pocket. A message loaded from a blocked number. "Come back and the port stops burning. Stay gone and we will tell the city what you are and who you belong to." My vision blurred. They could ruin me with a sentence. They could paint me as property and the world would nod along. He read the message over my shoulder. His face stayed still. He took the phone gently and turned it off. Then he placed it on the table like it was a dead thing. He wrote again. "They will use you to hurt others. They will use others to pull you back. The port, the workers, the alarms, the controlled fire that had cleared lanes and driven people out." He had not burned for chaos. He had burned to break their grip without crushing bodies. I realized then this was not only about me. They wanted to force him into open war. They wanted bodies to pay the price. "If I go back, they will take me," I whispered. He wrote without hesitation. "If you go back, I will not let them keep you. But I cannot promise the city stays untouched." A choice, not a command. Truth offered like a blade with the handle first. Something inside me shifted. I thought of the crowd that had clapped. I thought of his hand on my wrist steadying my pulse. I picked up the phone and turned it on again. He watched me like he was bracing for betrayal. I typed one line to the blocked number with fingers that would not stop shaking. "I am coming." Then I looked at the Enigma and realized I had just lit the fuse on whatever he had been holding back. The rain had slowed when we moved back toward the river. My message sat in my chest like a stone. I had told them I was coming as if I could control what happened next. He followed me without argument. Not agreement. Respect. At the edge of the port district, he stopped in an alley and pointed to a service entrance. Then he pointed to me. Then to himself. A question. "Are you sure?" My throat tightened. I nodded anyway. He placed a small plastic card in my palm. A number. A name. 2 words in neat ink. "If a lost call." I slipped it into my pocket and stepped toward the service entrance. My legs shook. I kept my chin up like they trained me. I kept breathing like I still belonged to myself. Inside the corridor, the air was hot and damp. Smoke had seeped into everything. Emergency lights washed the walls red. Men gathered and waited. They thought they were the ones setting the terms.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more emotional stories.